Hey everyone, my name is Nathan, and welcome to Hail. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 movies that I would like to be on the Criterion Collection. However, I won't be doing it alone. I have my buddy Nick joining me from his YouTube channel, and I'm really excited to have him here.
Thank you, Nate, for letting me be a part of your channel today. I'm really excited to talk about each and every single one of these selections that should be considered for the Criterion Collection.
So the way this is going to work is my video will be our numbers 10 through 6, and then his video will be our numbers 5 through 1. So make sure to watch his video after this one so that you can check out what our numbers 5 through 1 are. So before I even get started on listing my top 10, I just want to throw out there that It's a Wonderful Life's not going to be on this list. The reason I decided to do that is because I feel like it's pretty obvious that I've voiced my opinion that I really want that to be on the collection, and it's a pretty obvious number 1 for me. Alright, so number 10 for me goes to The Social Network. The reason The Social Network is so low is because the Blu-ray release for it is practically already a Criterion release within itself. I mean, literally, the Blu-ray release, it doesn't have special features, it literally has supplements, which is exactly what the Criterion Collection does. And so that's the only reason it ranks so low on the list. As far as the movie goes, it's one of my all-time favorites. And so if it were to be added to the Criterion Collection, I don't really know what the Criterion Collection would be adding as far as supplements and whatnot, since it already has so many supplements to it. But I still want to include it because I would love for this movie to be in the collection.
My number 10 is Star Wars, directed by George Lucas. Now, I know what you're going to say. Nick, this is too mainstream. Number 1, I am a big Star Wars fan. Let me get that out of the way. But I think that this movie deserves a Criterion release because it rejuvenated a genre that was almost dead on arrival, and that was the sci-fi genre. This really created a new era of film, and it's revolutionary. What George Lucas was able to do in bringing to life a galaxy. And I only think that A New Hope should be brought to the Criterion Collection. I don't think any of the other films should, because it is the film that started everything, and it's a movie that could definitely use new supplements. Yeah, it's mainstream, but they have The Breakfast Club already on the Criterion format.
At number 9, I have the 2004 film Primer. If you're not familiar with Primer, it's a movie that came out in 2004 with a very low budget, and it introduces so many new ideas to the concept of time travel. This is seriously the most confusing movie I've ever seen. In fact, I've only seen it once. It's due for a rewatch, but at the same time, I don't really want to rewatch it because of how much I know I'll have to think while watching it. And even the one time I have seen it, I had to pause it every few minutes with my buddy just so we could talk about the movie plot and make sure that we both understood what was going on. But this is the kind of movie that I think belongs in the Criterion Collection because it's so confusing that it deserves more views from people. I want to hear more analyses from people. Like on YouTube, you can look up analysis for this movie about how the whole time travel plot works. I just haven't come to watch them yet because they're very long videos. But it would be cool if Criterion could somehow include not necessarily those YouTube videos, but include explanations about how the timelines work, as well as just some behind the scenes and some explanations of how the heck this movie is possible. It's a crazy movie. Like, you guys should watch it regardless.
My number 9 is going to be a very controversial one as well, and that is The Room, directed by Tommy Wiseau. Yes, this is a bad movie. I'm not going to say that this is a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but this movie started a new genre of film, and that is the movies that are so bad that they're good. It was revolutionary in that. And it's no secret that this film has one of the most interesting and most bizarre behind-the-scenes drama to unfold that any other film could have had. But I think that there's a lot of supplements that could go into this. Supplements from Tommy Wiseau's perspective, commentaries, maybe some archival footage of him showing this movie into theaters and actually displaying this movie in his original idea of making this a drama to where now it's a black comedy and a satire. I do think that this is a movie that could be on Criterion. I mean, look, they've had some very weird choices in the past, but I think The Room is one that could be a very smart choice for Criterion because it gives the fans something a little different and a taste of everything and dipping into a genre that is still yet to this day not completely unfurled and known, and that is the movies that are so bad that they're good. And this is the shining example of that. It is the golden apple of those films.
Number 8, I have Miracle on 34th Street, the original one. This movie is a Christmas classic. Honestly, the Criterion Collection doesn't have a lot of Christmas movies in their collection. They definitely have a few, but they don't have a lot, and I would love for this one to get the Criterion treatment. Edmund Gwenn might be my favorite live-action Santa Claus of all time. He's just so joyful and happy, and I don't know, this movie just makes me so happy watching it, especially around Christmas time, obviously. It's a release that if they put some good cover art on it as well as some good supplements, then I think a lot of people would buy it.
My number 8 is The Truman Show. This was directed by Peter Weir. He already has a couple films on Criterion already, so I think that this is a movie that could really benefit from a Criterion release. This is a movie that just screams Criterion. Not everyone knows about this movie, but it has that cult following behind it. It's like a little indie film that could, and this is by far Jim Carrey's best performance. I have not seen him in anything else that has resembled something to this magnitude, where the film is funny, but it also tells a very personal and interesting subject about what actually happens when we focus our minds and our attention on somebody else. And that's really what you get with this film. And I think that it's a great film to kind of get a lot of supplements for. I haven't seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I haven't seen a lot of commentary on this film, and I would love to get that from the perspectives of Peter Weir and also Jim Carrey, man. I would not be shocked at all if this film got announced in the upcoming titles for the Criterion Collection.
Number 7, I have an Alfred Hitchcock movie. That is Dial M for Murder. Now, Alfred Hitchcock is no stranger to the Criterion Collection. He has plenty of movies in the collection already. And while I would love for some of his more well-known movies, such as Psycho or Rear Window, to make the collection, I would love for Dial M for Murder to get a Criterion treatment. This is more of an underrated Hitchcock film, but it's one of the first ones I ever saw, and I've loved it ever since I saw it for the first time. The plot is very Hitchcock, like it doesn't get much more Hitchcock than this. A man hires someone to kill his wife. The person fails at killing his wife, and now the man has to live his life as if he has no idea that someone was trying to kill his wife. And so it's a huge lie. The whole story is a huge lie, and it's very interesting to watch the story unfold with Ray Milland, the lead character, living this lie and pretending that he doesn't know that his wife was attacked by a man that he hired to kill her. It's just such a cool story, and I would love to see what cover art Criterion could add to this. I would also love to see supplements. I own this movie on Blu-ray, but it's like a weird 3D Blu-ray format. I'm sure they've released it in other formats, but I'm not really sure what kind of special features those include. I would love to see a Criterion release where we get some cool supplements of maybe behind the scenes footage. I don't even know if they have that kind of archival footage, but just anything with like Grace Kelly or Ray Milland, or whether it's like scripts or interviews. I would love any of that kind of thing.
My number 7 is a very recent release, and that is The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. This movie stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as two lighthouse keepers, and I gotta say, this movie is a perfect horror film for the Criterion Collection because it's very weird. There's a lot of interesting theology and mythology in this film. This movie deals with a lot of Greek theologies, and this is a movie that I could definitely see a Criterion release for because it fits a lot of that flashiness that Criterion movies have. The aspect ratio is not a modern aspect ratio. The fact that this movie has a very odd way of showing certain things being depicted, having supplements for this movie showing maybe a little bit more in-depth look to the theology that they were going for, certain Greek fables that they wanted to interpret in this work, I think that would be very interesting to see. And I think that The Lighthouse is a movie that screams Criterion. And unfortunately, I wish that this movie would have gotten a little bit more award consideration and love. But honestly, though, this is a movie that would fit perfectly with the Criterion Collection as a whole.
And at my number 6, I have Casablanca. Bless you! You're welcome! Casablanca is a classic. I don't think there's too much I have to say about this movie. I mean, everyone knows about Casablanca. Even if you haven't seen it, you've at least heard of it, I'm sure. It is just such an iconic movie, one that I loved much more on a rewatch, honestly. And as far as I'm aware, Criterion Collection has released this in their Laserdisc collection, but it doesn't have a traditional DVD or Blu-ray release. And so that's what I'm really kind of rooting for this video's sake. So in college, I took a class called Humanities where we just kind of study different forms of art throughout time and history. There's one section of the class where we studied film, and we watched Casablanca. And with watching Casablanca, there was a lot of analysis done for it, such as different camera angles and how impactful the movie was for the time that it was released. But on top of that, we even read papers about why Casablanca is such an impactful film. And it really kind of changed my perspective of why this is considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time. Before, after watching it the first time, I was like, okay, that was a good movie. But after like studying it and rewatching it and really just kind of appreciating why it's so important. That's why I think this movie deserves a Criterion release. It's such a good movie. And fun fact, that humanities class that I was talking about, I actually took that class with Nick in college. And now we're making YouTube videos together. So sweet.
And my number 6 film is a film that I truly love, that I'm very surprised it's not on Criterion, and that is Moulin Rouge, directed by Baz Luhrmann. This is a movie that I think could use an upgraded and upscale release. And I also would love to just be able to get all the supplements with this film, like in the knowledge of music, kind of how they were able to transform certain modern songs to a more old-timey fashion. And I think that that would be very interesting. I think that this is a movie that also looks like a Criterion release, a lot like what the Truman Show is. And I think that it could use that upgrade. And again, thank you, Nate, for collabing in this video with me. It's been a lot of fun.
So that does it for my portion of the video. Make sure to go to Nick's video now to check out our numbers 5 through 1. And if you guys have any recommendations for what you would like to see on the Criterion Collection, leave them in the comments. I would love to see them. All right, head over to Nick's video. I'll see you in a sec.